They say you die twice. Once is when you... what? Why are you all looking at me like that? What happened? Is something wrong? Guys, is something wrong? They say you die twice. Once is when you take your last breath. The second time, a bit later on, is when your existence is mentioned for the final time before you're forgotten entirely. But what if, in between those deaths, there lay a moment where you lived more than ever before? What if your life's purpose was accomplished not only before your death, but continued to grow more effective as the years went by and the trees grew taller? That very concept is what I believe encapsulates the entirety of Unus Annus' current state, or rather, lack thereof. It has now been 4 years since Unus Annus first began and 3 years since its demise. Throughout its existence, we all knew what it had been leading up to. Each video started and ended with a reminder of the inevitable. Each moment was encouraged to be cherished as much as possible. Each memory was unique as there were only a few and far between when compared to everything else Mark and Ethan had made up until that point. And yet, the end of Unus Annus still took everyone by surprise. There were those that believed in the conspiracy of how there was a larger story at play and how this project would only lead to something grander. Then there were those that ultimately doubted Ethan and Mark. After all, who would delete a year's worth of effort that had become so popular and profitable? Finally, there were those that were simply in denial. Those that spent each passing day consuming the content they were given while not paying much attention to the entire reason why that content was being put out in the first place.
Why would someone put all that effort into something they were just going to get rid of? They were just going to throw away. And I said, it'll make sense when it ends.
That one quote summarizes the meaning behind Unus Annus and the feelings associated with it, both before and after the channel's end. Everyone working on the channel knew that the majority of people would not be able to fully grasp the finality of what was being worked toward, about why each video mattered as much as it did. At the same time, everyone also knew that the message could only be best understood after the clock struck 0.
Because I firmly believe that the entirety of what something is cannot be truly appreciated until it ends. You don't look back on what it was, you don't look back on all the minutiae of the detail of how it came to be until it's already gone.
That statement could not be truer when it came to the peculiar case of Unus Annus. Quite frankly, I do think people took the channel for granted. It was easy to get lost in the novelty of it all and forget about the greater meaning as we all got hooked onto one video and then proceeded on to the next. After all, there was no need to worry. It was a whole year, 365 days, 365 videos. And yet, looking back, all we can ever think about is just how quickly that year passed. A year is a long time. You think we all would have seen it coming by that point. Most of the fan base wasn't okay after that final livestream. The people behind it grieved alongside us. We all grieved, all in uniquely different ways. Ethan's post-mortem video is most evident of this.
I don't know how else to put this. In the best way, I'm not okay right now. Like, I've never felt a feeling like this before.
It was hard for everyone. Outsiders were quick to mock the fans by deeming the channel something too minuscule to get worked over. However, for many of us, that channel was a constant force in our life. Something reliable, almost. Especially during a time when nothing else was.
After 365 days of consecutive uploads, the channel is no longer here.
It was something we could tune into every day, and it would still be there. In fact, there would only be more of it. And all of it provided nothing but laughs and comfort. It was all just a repetition of Mark, Ethan, and Amy being goofballs on camera. And yet, that's exactly why we loved it so very much. People may still not understand, but it was hard to let go. A year went by and people moved on. However, they didn't forget. Mark and Ethan certainly didn't. Their first anniversary video was a reminder of many things. It was a reminder of what we had lost, but also a reminder of how it had already been a year since we'd lost it. Another year already. The first year taught us to cherish existence and ended off with a chilling reminder of just how easy it is to lose what you've become so accustomed to. It helped us realize how life really is too short, especially for those of us that haven't had a chance to live yet. And the second year only solidified this. Lixian's video on the anniversary is the best example of this epiphany.
But I definitely feel like I could have done more this year.
He, like many of us, was inspired to do so much more after the death of Unus Annus. And yet, life went on. Some goals were accomplished, some were not.
If Unus and Annus were alive, they would be so disappointed right now.
The milestones Lixian had laid out for himself had an entire year to be reached. Some were, some weren't. We thought the channel's death was when the message of Unus Annus rung out the loudest, and yet, a year later, it found a way to further cement itself in our hearts.
That didn't happen.
Time ticked away all the same. Another year went by, and another anniversary video came. Although this one was unlike the one that had preceded it. This one was more intimate. Similar to when a cast of a show reunites long after the last season had aired, we see Ethan and Mark sit down to just talk. By that point, it had been 2 years since the channel had ended.
2 years, that's longer than we did the whole of Unus Annus.
Mark and Ethan had both grown in their own independent ways. They were working on entirely different things, yet it was interesting to see them still speak so fondly about Unus Annus. However, it was from a different perspective, where they could see the fruits of their labor. Many times throughout the video, they commented about how their intentions with the channel had become as clear as they could be.
With living in the moment, it's both appreciating it for the moment and also realizing that a lot of the moments in between don't matter. There's a lot of moments in between that don't matter that are still really, really important.
Unus Annus had certainly left an impact, yet it was now more than ever that people understood the importance of what the channel stood for.
The channel getting further away from it being alive, it's like turning it more into this legend, which is really cool.
Afterward, this perfect reunion episode closed off with one last heartwarming reference. The video only highlighted what another year passing had accomplished. You only have so much time.
I feel like I learned how to appreciate stuff a little bit more.
This was also when my own retrospective on Unus Annus had come out. There were many more akin to that as well. Each video recounted the significance of the channel and what it meant to the individual as well as the collective. For those that had been there from the start, a shift in attitude was noticeable. Not just with Mark, Ethan and Amy, but with people like Lixian as well. Those that remembered Unus Annus were now living with the lessons they had learned from it. At the very least, they were trying to. And that's all anyone can do.
Time's gonna tick by no matter what. I just really love those calm ones.
And now, we approach yet another anniversary. At the time of writing this, there's no new video out yet on either of the two's channels. However, I don't doubt there will be one. I also don't doubt it'll be as beautiful as the ones we've gotten in the past, just in its own unique way. This is what I mean. This is why I so wholeheartedly believe that Unus Annus has only become more relevant as time has gone on. As audiences have matured and people have moved on. As memories have grown fonder and the laughs have become more distant. As the dread has transformed from acceptance into motivation, we all have been able to understand just how important Unus Annus really was. The value we had for it has been replaced with an even deeper appreciation. And this ideology will continue to grow stronger the more time passes by. When one loves something with all their heart, they'll do their best at honoring it. The audience of Unus Annus isn't any different. Not only do we all wish to be better for the sake of the teachings of Unus Annus, but it's those very teachings that motivate us to be better altogether. Pick up that pen or paintbrush. Create for yourself. Create to mend. Don't worry about who or when. For in the end, as the clock chimes, all that remains is a legacy you leave behind. Good or bad, who is to say? One day, it'll be memento mori either way.
What I'm talking about is our videos, our stuff. If you've made something or you have a screenshot, like, I get it, accept it. I encourage people to embrace the message of Unus Annus and deleting things and letting things go, because letting things go is important. But we are the ones that are dying. And just remember, guys, like, you can still make stuff about Unus Annus after Unus Annus is over. It's not bad for you to do so. Remember it. It exists only in your memory after this channel ends, but it exists there. And you keep it going. You keep the light alive. And just because we're gone doesn't mean that you have to forget about it.